In March 2026, something is going to change in the skies of the North Atlantic. Something nobody expected. Something nobody wanted to admit was possible. American Airlines is going to do the impossible. Connect Philadelphia to Dublin with a single-aisle aircraft. A small jet, practically a regional airplane that, according to everything the industry believed for decades, should never be able to cross an entire ocean without a stopover. But it will. And when that happens, a question will haunt Boeing executives. How did we let this happen? This isn't just a story about aeronautical technology. It's a story about power, about market dominance, about the fall of an empire that seemed immortal. It's the story of how a European company managed to fill a void that the world's largest airplane manufacturer not only left open, but didn't even recognize existed. But how did Boeing, with all its experience, not see this coming? And more importantly, what does it mean for the future of intercontinental aviation? The answer Boeing gave surprised the entire aerospace industry and shocked the aviation world. If you're also passionate about the world of aviation, consider subscribing to the channel and supporting our team. For more than 7 decades, Boeing reigned supreme in the skies. The 747, the legendary Queen of the Skies, defined an entire generation. But there was one airplane in particular that became practically invisible because of its versatility, the Boeing 757. Launched in 1983, it was small, efficient, and capable of flying routes nobody imagined were possible. It was the Goldilocks of aviation, not too big, not too small, but precisely what airlines needed. Then, in 2004, Boeing made a decision that would change everything. It stopped producing it. For 2 years after that decision, nobody really noticed. There were planes in operation, there was supply. But as the years passed, 5, 10, 15, airlines began to perceive an increasingly acute problem. To fly transatlantic, they had to choose between 2 impossible extremes. Either they used the small Boeing 737 MAX, which had limited range and required stopovers, or they invested in massive Boeing 777 and 787 Dreamliners, planes so enormous they required routes through major hubs, larger crews, and fuel consumption that airlines simply could no longer justify in a world increasingly concerned about carbon emissions. There was no middle ground. There was no room for creativity, and definitely no jet that could connect medium-sized cities economically viable for intercontinental routes. That space remained empty, silent, forgotten. But someone was watching that void with attention. Someone was taking notes, and in 2019, that someone made a move Boeing never saw coming. That year, Airbus announced something that sounded almost absurd to industry experts: an ultra-long-range version of its A321neo, the A321XLR. The promise was even more confusing: a single-aisle aircraft with a range of 4,700 nautical miles, or 8,700 kilometers, capable of crossing the Atlantic. Theoretically impossible, practically absurd. But there was a detail Boeing had lost sight of. Airbus wasn't trying to compete with Boeing on the same terms. It was competing on the terms Boeing had abandoned. The first test flights arrived in 2022. The first actual delivery, 2024, to Iberia. And when that first A321XLR took off with real passengers on board, something fundamentally changed in the balance of aeronautical power. It wasn't a dramatic change. There was no explosion or visible collapse. It was quieter than that. It was more dangerous than that. Because when American Airlines saw that plane flying, saw the routes it could create, saw the reduced operational costs of 30%, saw the possibility of connecting its medium-sized cities to Europe without depending on giant hubs, it made a decision that would echo throughout the industry. A decision that would finally make Boeing realize the game had changed and they were falling behind. The A321XLR isn't just an airplane. It's an answer to a question that was asked 2 decades ago. What would happen if we could fly transatlantic with a small, efficient aircraft? Technically, the secret lies in every centimeter of its fuselage. The aircraft carries between 194 and 244 passengers while consuming 30% less fuel than its predecessors. Nearly 5,000 miles or 9,000 kilometers without stopovers. It features a modern cabin with ambient lighting, larger overhead bins, and superior acoustics. It's compatible with sustainable fuels, SAF, responding to growing pressure for greener operations. But for an airline, the real secret isn't in technical specifications. It's in numbers. It's in cost per seat. It's in how many new routes can be created with a single aircraft. It's in how that aircraft can fly Philadelphia to Dublin, Boston to Manchester, and dozens of other combinations that previously required mandatory stopovers in giant hubs like New York or Chicago. Americans saw those numbers, saw the opportunity, and said yes, with an order that shocked the entire industry. American is the largest customer for the A321XLR in the US, with dozens of units on order. And it's going to start operating these routes in March 2026. But when American starts profiting from these routes, when its operational costs fall, when its passengers discover they can fly direct from medium-sized cities to Europe, something is going to become crystal clear to Boeing. And that something is going to look like an existential threat. Because at that moment, the question that will haunt Wichita for years emerges. What is Boeing going to do now? The answer Boeing has to offer is uncomfortable, or rather, practically non-existent. The Boeing 737 MAX 10, Boeing's closest competitor, has a range of only 3,300 nautical miles, or 6,100 kilometers. This means it's significantly smaller than the A321XLR. Boeing currently does not possess any aircraft capable of offering the same performance, flexibility, and efficiency for medium-range transatlantic routes. It's sounding out the market about a 757 2.0 to confront the A321XLR. But there's a dangerous difference between sounding out and delivering. Sounding out is talking. Sounding out is asking questions. Delivering is putting planes in the air for real customers on real routes. And while Boeing sounds out, Airbus delivers. While Boeing plans, Airbus profits. And there's something else hanging in the air. The question of who really controls the future of commercial aviation. Because when you stop serving a market segment, someone else will. And when someone else starts serving it well, it becomes very difficult to recover lost ground. Very difficult indeed. But what is really the magnitude of this loss? What is the real size of the market Boeing is letting slip away? The answer lies in a number that should keep Boeing executives awake at night. The potential market for the A321XLR is calculated at 500 aircraft. If each aircraft generates annual revenue of tens of millions of dollars throughout its operational life, which can exceed 30 years, we're talking about a market worth more than $100 billion in operational revenue. But it's not just about money. It's about strategic dominance of the global aviation network. When American Airlines connects Philadelphia to Dublin or Boston to Manchester, it's doing something Boeing can no longer offer efficiently. It's redefining how intercontinental aviation works. It's creating routes that were previously economically unviable. It's reducing dependence on conventional hubs and opening possibilities that were simply impossible before. It's as if Airbus had found a key that opened doors Boeing didn't even know existed. And more importantly, it's using those keys very well. But the question that now emerges, the question that troubles the entire industry, is this: how many more doors are still waiting to be opened? And more terrifying still, how many of those doors are going to be closed to Boeing forever? Because when you fall behind in innovation, when you let a competitor dominate an entire segment, recovery isn't a matter of a few years. It's a matter of structural market change.
And that's starting to happen now. American isn't alone. That's what makes it all even more terrifying for Boeing. Icelandair signed a memorandum of understanding with Airbus for the purchase of 13 A321XLR aircraft with purchase rights for 12 additional XLRs. JetBlue is exploring options, United is expanding its fleet with XLRs, Iberia is already operating, Condor recently announced the retirement of all its 757s to replace its entire fleet with Airbus aircraft. Everyone sees the same thing, an opportunity to redefine their networks, to reach markets that were previously inaccessible, to operate with efficiency that nobody else can offer. When an innovation offers significant savings and opens new market possibilities, airlines don't resist. They can't resist. The profit margin in aviation is so thin, so precarious, that a 30% reduction in fuel consumption is practically irresistible. It's the difference between profit and loss. It's the difference between expanding and shrinking. It's the difference between thriving and disappearing. There's still the matter of sustainability that cannot be ignored. The A321XLR is compatible with sustainable fuels and generates lower CO2 emissions. For airlines under pressure for greener operations, this is simply decisive. And while all this happens, the final question emerges. The question that really matters is what will be the legacy of this change. We've reached a historical inflection point in commercial aviation, a point from which there is no return. The hegemony Boeing cultivated for 70 decades has not disappeared suddenly, but it has irreversibly changed hands. It's not a question of if the A321XLR will transform intercontinental aviation, it's a question of when that transformation will be complete. And the answer is, it's already happening. The A321XLR is the economy king, capable of offering low-cost, good passenger capacity and network possibilities that simply didn't exist before. American Airlines, by adopting this aircraft massively, isn't just updating its fleet, it's leading a silent revolution in intercontinental air transport, a revolution that will redefine how connectivity works on the planet. For Airbus, it's definitive consolidation of power in a strategic segment. For airlines, it's the opportunity to expand networks with efficiency never seen before. For passengers, it's connectivity that never existed before. But for Boeing, it's an urgent and inescapable reminder that in an industry in constant evolution, it's not enough to dominate the past. You must lead the future. And in the skies, it seems the future now has a name. Airbus A321XLR. The question that remains, the question that should make any observer of this transformation pause and reflect, is simple. Is this really the end of Boeing's golden age in transatlantic skies? Or is it just the beginning of a much deeper fall?